I have reps from the Norrie House Resource Management Board, 2 reps from the province. So it's a co-management board. There's 10 members, 5 from the province and 5 from Norrie House Cree Nation. Can I ask Siraj and Kendra to stand up? Siraj is Thati. He is the co-chairperson of the Resource Management Board. I'm going to ask him to come and say a few words.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure being here for the meeting tonight. As Loretta said, I'm the co-chair alongside her in the Resource Management Board with Norrie House. My role with the province is the Regional Fisheries Manager. I'm excited to keep working on the land use plan and see where it goes and all the great things that will come from it. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Siraj. And Kendra Stewart is the secretary that assists the Resource Management Board in our meetings and our initiatives. We also have the consultant who will be working with us on the land use plan. I have intergroup consultants, and there's a couple of people. I'll ask them to stand up as well. So Christina Blau and Eliza Hyde-Smith representing intergroup consultants. So that's our parties. Norrie House and our portfolio holder, Councillor Dave Swanson, is here. So I'm going to, on behalf of Norrie House Chief and Council, I'm going to ask him to come up and do some opening comments.
Danse, kita tabi sekat na nas kaman utan kisam ayu tapi ni poya tapi tabi sekat tago ma. Aku cuma kat wit sekat sekat te kayu danci saya te sekat na basta magistan umota ayu. Ita kita skina oi se kana naga staya kita skina oi ta kaisi bagita hoya kaisi waniga anuak kaise machina anuak exercise kaise mosteo hoya kaise zaginan tan tema na mina kagi peuste yu kaya sa te tana kagi pe wa wigiak tate kano basta mago maginan ta na kajistayak egisema du tamago ma kono siato skat tamago ma that stege gut toma chigema aya mina aya andai papitus ta egestatak kagamina ginatak aski agam kaya oise ta kadun chigate gane kaya gutu tinimina na kaya aski gona kagi pe wana start kagi pe wana stamago yagok Tapos ko sa naman ito ang mas napayagate kante pemas kri kitage. Ego sana ma pogo tagagiaya ka ni hayawa. Tananagajistaya kisa kayas. Muna mapagay tagayas kamas napayagate. Papito site kitaskinagote ko sisnaga na wana may ganyan ito tananagajistaya. Agami na ito kayas mosteho na anok. Ito kayas kayas pa nagipaysiwigit sikitin ni minadak. Agamin natin si kano abastagate ko maayo isa kaskinoge ko ni tiaga na sinikatek agaginan isa gistom tagiot na maganehe inaniwit winuina kagi minegate aya kitinimenada kagi pais negata kagi sa dante kamaga stawa na ite kagi bostiak ite kagi pewigiak so ekanu ba ekane pogo ayo Tawanastaya Gisnan. I'd like to welcome everybody here today and to all the people that are listening out there as well. What I said just now is that I think is that we have to ensure that we look after our lands. We protect what is ours. We protect our resources. We protect our waterways. We protect our land base. We have some historical significant areas that we have to protect. There's like the rock paintings on Pamas Creek, and there's other paintings and rock paintings and other sacred areas that we have to protect as our areas that we can't have any development, or we can't have any form of anybody to come and destroy that. So I think it's important that we have that in place. We also, traditional family areas where families lived, where some of our families were born, and those are areas as well that we have to identify and we have to protect. One of the things I know we talked to some of the trappers and fishermen about in the past is we have a number of areas in our traditional area that have English names now, and as a result by either the provincial government or somebody has given them English names, and I think we have to take those back. We have to give them their original Cree names. So it's important that we do the research, and it's important that we start giving them, because it's ours, and we have to honor that and make sure that we give them the proper names. So with that, I'd like to thank all of you. There's lots of work to be done. This is not the only meeting that we have. We're going to have a number of other meetings, and I welcome the guests as well, and I welcome the elders that are here and the people that are here. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here today. Egusane, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So I'm going to provide a bit of a background on this initiative, where it started. So I'm going to go back and forth to the computer. So the purpose of this meeting, it's really this meeting is to kick off the land use plan initiative that Norrie House Cree Nation is undertaking with the Resource Management Board and intergroup. So while the Article 5 of the MIA established the Resource Management Board, and one of the duties of the Resource Management Board is to establish land use plans, integrated resource management plans, and it's been some time since we had signed the MIA. For one reason or another, we didn't start the process, but we have, and it was really driven by some forestry activity on the west side of our resource management area. So that kind of brought so much attention to the need for this land use plan, and we started discussing with the province about a year or so ago, and we put out a call for proposals this past fall for consultants to apply or to submit a proposal, and Intergroup was a successful applicant. So there's three purposes to this meeting. One is to kick off the initiative. We are starting the process with our land use plan. We wanted to introduce the parties. So as I stated before, Chief and Council represent our Norrie House Cree Nation. There is a Norrie House Resource Management Board, which is comprised of 10 members, 5 each from Manitoba and 5 a Norrie House Cree Nation, and the consultant intergroup. We wanted also to introduce the process and our next steps. The next slide. So what is a traditional land use? Traditional Area Land Use Plan, and the acronym is TALUP, TALUP. So this is my office's definition of a TALUP. So a TALUP is it's a comprehensive document written by the community, so us, the membership of Norway House, based on a common vision, a shared vision that guides future land use, both internal, so meaning the band membership, and external, and that could be government and industry, of our ancestral lands. The other, we can refer to it also as the resource management area or our traditional territory. You'll hear those terms. Which considers our historical, traditional, customary, and inherent interests of our nation. That's the definition that my office uses for a traditional area land use plan. So that's our goal and objectives. We'll have this deliverable, this document that does all of these things. Next slide. So some of the benefits of a land use plan, I could have listed way more, but I think this summarizes some of the benefits. So it documents and maps our traditional, historical, and customary land use activities. And I will say that's of the Cree, the Norihos Cree people. Identifies and documents our special areas, and Councillor Swanson mentioned the rock paintings. There's others, like there's Limestone Bay. There's a few others. Areas that are special for their either the geology or their significance to where we may have gathered in the past historically. It preserves traditional gathering and harvesting areas, promotes environmental protection, and sustains critical habitat areas. So that's as gatherers, hunters and gatherers and harvesters, that's a really important piece of this process, is that it documents where we did, what we did, and where. And there are areas that I know as a child I went to, which I don't use anymore because A, the berries are gone or what have you, but it's still all these, our traditional knowledge is documented and captured in this process. Also guides proposed development within and adjacent to our traditional territory with our Indigenous land uses as a priority. So if there's competing interests, say they want to, I don't know what's an example, do forestry, and we have harvesting areas, let's say, I'm going to use grouse or chickens, right, wild chicken. So if they're going to go out and they're going to establish a forestry harvesting area, they have to know that we use that area to harvest grouse. And they have to ensure that those rights are not impacted by their activities. Also reinforces Indigenous, cultural, and inherent rights to the land and resources. It is, for example, forestry and mining. So those are some of the main benefits. I could have added a lot more there, but they didn't all fit on the page. Next slide. So where are we at in this process? We're still in early stages. We've had a couple meetings with the consultant, with council and the consultant. This is our first public forum. So our timeline, we identified 3 phases, and this was done with the Resource Management Board. So we developed 3 phases over a 24-month timeline. So first phase, so phase 1, it's collecting and compiling any information about activities that are happening in the resource management area. So Intergroup has started that process. So for instance, if they were going to figure out how many commercial fishermen there were, there's information out there, there's existing information. It's just gathering it all up. And we haven't done this. The next bullet, it's identification of a mission statement, our vision and goals, what it is we want our document to look like at the end. And we're hoping our next meeting, we can develop that together, the mission, vision, and goals. So that the anticipated completion date for phase 1 is April 1st, 2023, which we're a little bit behind schedule. So adds approximately 6 months to that. Phase 2, it's the community engagement. So that's the stage at which there has been a schedule of meetings planned. Our mission, vision, and goals are identified. We already know what data has been collected in reference to activities, internal and external, like mining, forestry, etc. So there will be a lot of meetings because it's the province or the regulator, other regulators say it's the federal government will provide information. Manitoba Hydro will provide information that we need to map out existing land use. But us too, as a nation, we have to provide information as well. So it's like, just, where do we go? Where do we camp? Like Sea Falls Camp, that's a relevant spot. And these are all the things we do there. So there will be, we had proposed over the 24 months, there will be a meeting each quarter. So every 3 months, there will be a public meeting like this. And smaller group sessions, say with fishers, trappers, elders, youth, and the list goes on. Target completion date for that would be April 1st, 2024. So about a year or so to gather all that information, do some questionnaires, maybe some site visits, those types of things. And the third phase is to have a draft document, and then we would review it as a membership and approval by leadership, and we'd have the final traditional area land use plan. So target completion date is December 31st, 2024. So a year and a half around there. So that's the timeline, the schedule, and the main activities. Next slide. Oh, so I want to stop there because Intergroup has a presentation that goes more in more detail for what a land use plan is. I'm going to ask Christina to come up, and she's got a presentation as well. You want to put it in here? Yeah. So while we're getting ready for that presentation, we have the food coming. So we'll stop at this point and we'll grab some food, and we'll be ready to go in a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions or comments at this point? Just raise your. Just go on. Oh, okay. From Norway House, Dennis Day is asking who's on the board from Norway House, the resource board. So there's myself, the co-chair, Wayne Anderson, Andrew Falster Jr., Chris Clark, and Sophia Halcrow. Yeah, you're welcome. Any more questions? We'll wait for her to bring the rest of the food in. Anybody have any more comments or questions? Any question? We're on it. Norway House, the Norway House representatives and the province, the reps on there now. It's a lot different than it was previously. I find it. They're more receptive to hearing what our concerns are and what can we do together to deal with them. So we've dealt with quite a few issues in the last little while. Like our work plan for this year, it's not a formal work plan, but this is the priority of the resource board, is to get the land use plan done and completed. Yeah. So this fall, we'd like to have a meeting in the community just to get some feedback, to share some of the files that we're working on, because we're dealing with aquatic invasive species, winter roads. We dealt with the semi that flipped over at Sioux Falls. There's a number of others, like permit applications, forestry. There's mining. There's lots of issues. We have pretty much full day agenda, and we meet pretty much quarterly. Yeah, but we would like to have a meeting here this fall in a public forum. Yeah. Yeah. Crystal, are you ready? Okay. So if you want to grab a plate, and then we'll, after we've settled down, we can come back and we'll have a presentation from Intergroup. Pardon? No, sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, we're gonna get started again. So, agenda item number 2. It's a presentation from Intergroup. Christina.
Yeah. Are you going to do the slides? Okay. Okay, thanks everybody. Keep enjoying your food and chat. I'll just go through the slide deck. So this is a bit of an outline about what I'm going to go through in the slides. I know Loretta covered some of it. What is a land use plan? Why is Norway House preparing the TALUP? What are the steps? How community members can get involved? And then how we are hoping to learn from the community. So the objectives of this meeting right now is to share some information and then listen to community members for feedback and input. So just to start off and set the stage, Norway House is in Treaty 5 territory. Treaty 5 is known as the Winnipeg Territory or Winnipeg Treaty. It was signed in 1875, and Norway House Cree Nation signed the first iteration of Treaty 5, whereas there's a few other nations that signed an adhesion later on. And you can see the map of Treaty 5 actually goes into Saskatchewan a little bit, as well as Ontario. So the Master Implementation Agreement is what we're going to talk about here. Norway House has experience with Lake Winnipeg regulation, hydroelectric development in your territory. And Norway House is a signatory of the Northern Flood Agreement. Part of that Northern Flood Agreement is the Master Implementation Agreement that Loretta spoke about earlier. And within that, like she shared, Article 5 not only lays out resource management areas, also known as traditional territory, but also includes the opportunity for a land use plan for that resource management area. Yeah, so the map on here shows in the sort of orange line, the outline of Norway House's resource management area. That big area is what the land use plan would work towards having guidelines for. You can see the pink, which is the reserve land. We talked about that last night at the land code meeting. The land code would deal with Norway House reserve parcels, whereas the land use plan provides guidance from the community about the entire resource management area. And they would work together, the land code and the land use plan. So I know some of this is what Loretta already talked about, but I'll just skim it quickly. A land use plan, what is it? Manitoba is a really large province, and it's rich and has natural heritage. But there needs to be a balance between protecting healthy environments and also the demand for natural resource or development. This land use plan would really be used to establish a vision or a path forward for land and resources. And it would be the implementation is to co-manage natural resources. There are 9 resource management boards that have had the opportunity to develop and implement a land use plan. Sorry? Yes, that's within Manitoba. So again, Loretta mentioned it will be called a TALUP, a Traditional Area Land Use Plan for Norway House. It helps develop a vision and guide for the future use of land within the resource management area, which is the orange outline. And it's a tool used to protect land and way of life by guiding future development and setting aside areas for traditional activities. So why are we preparing a TALIP? It will strengthen the stewardship role of the community within the resource management area. Resources, fish and wildlife, often called resources, it will help to protect or manage issues within the RMA. It can also play a role in resolving potential conflicts in land and resource use, and continuing sustainable development, healthy community, and safety. And specify how to do these new developments or protections within the land use plan. So last night there was a meeting on the land code, and again that too is in a very introductory phase for the second time now, starting again. And this slide just shows that the traditional area land use plan will work together with the land code. They will be cohesive. They will work together, not at odds. So this is what a land use plan can do. It can protect areas from development. It can manage land for future generations. It can teach youth about the importance of land and how to use it respectfully. It can include community or customary laws and policies as directed by elders. It can also include information about respecting traditional and local knowledge of the landscape. It can manage important traditional community resources like moose or waterfowl, birds, or fish. It can also manage traditional lands so that people, along with the land, water, and living things, are sustained into the future. And it can also provide equal representation for voices within the plan of elders and youth and women in the policy making for this direction. And like mentioned on the last slide, it will align with the land code. This is a table that just sort of shows some examples of a resource or development proposal and what a potential policy or action could be in a proposed land use plan. So for example, there could be archaeological or cultural sites, the third one down, and within the land use plan, it could say establish protection guidelines through a special management zone. So these are just a few examples of what could happen within a land use plan. Does anybody have any questions? We're about halfway through the slides. No, we could keep going? Okay. So there can be other plan components with the guidance of Norway House. There's other things that you can add in. It can include agriculture. It can include cabins for fire protection or safety. It can include climate change, provisions for protection or adapting for climate change. It can include trapping components, like a trapping council that makes decisions on a head or assistant trappers and supports youth trapping. There can be economic development, including the way or the guide to evaluate development proposals that come into the community. It can include information on endangered or threatened species, like protecting caribou or wolverine or lake sturgeon in a zone, if that's what the community wants. There can be energy development, fire management, or forest resources. So within the RMA, the orange boundary, there are existing land uses or framework policies that need to be considered. These include Manitoba hydro operations. Those are things we can't change, but we can work around them within the land use plan. There's community interest zones around municipalities. There might be mining or quarry leases. There's a game hunting area that will have quotas or seasons that we still need to adhere to. We can't change, but we can adapt the plan around it. Registered trap lines, lodges and outfitters, and areas of special interest. These are some of the steps, like Loretta talked about earlier. We're currently just starting collecting all the data that's available, as well as mapping information. Next time we come, we will have big maps of the resource management area, TLE areas that are confirmed or in progress. So that will come with the process, but we are collecting all the information now. Coming up soon, we'll have a schedule of all of the community meetings. Like Loretta mentioned, every quarter we will come and talk and share about what we're finding and where we're at in the stage. There will also be traditional land use study. So that means interviews with elders or youth to gather information to include in the land use plan. Then we'll start drafting the land use plan and have input from council. And then we will finalize it by the winter of 2024. So we will be seeking information and vision and guidance from the community. This will include sensitive areas or places that you want protected or acknowledged within the land use plan. Some of the ones that we're already aware of just from early initial conversations include the spots that are circled in red. So Little Limestone Bay, Pamus Creek, the headwaters of the Hayes River, and possibly Playgreen Lake, the Southern Shore burial grounds. And we're going to be coming to the community to ask about more. What more can we mark down and understand so that we can include it in your land use plan? So how can the community get involved in this process? There will be at least 8 meetings every quarter, 1 meeting for the next 18 months or so. There'll be traditional knowledge interviews that we will try to connect with a variety of different groups within the community. That includes elders, youth, knowledge holders, harvesters, fishers, trappers, and community members. And there's going to also be 4 community research positions that we will help support and train to go and do many of these interviews. Loretta will have more information on that too if anyone's interested in participating. So this land use plan is really about learning from you, about what we can include in it. And the things we're going to come and talk about are what resources are important to you and why, and how can we make sure we incorporate them into the land use plan. It'll also be where in the RMA is important to you, and explain why. Is it a travel route? Is it a cabin? Is it your boat launch? Or just a place with special memories that's important for us to gather? And that's it. Are there any other questions? Yeah. I'll share the slide deck with you.
Yeah, to get the children involved more and to keep them in mind as we go through that process and any process we have for the land and all that. They need to be involved, even involve the schools, the children in the high school area to be involved in the thinking and what they want to see in the future for themselves. we as adults are getting to the point that we don't. For myself, I'm in a wheelchair. It's hard to go in the woods to climb trees and everything else. But for them to know that they have access to these as a treaty person, as a community person, and their grandparents probably went trapping and fishing and all that. They sort of, our community is getting away from that, more TV and more in the community. They don't go out, they don't boat and all that. Expose them to more boating and all that. As I see canoeing and all this, we have to show the children what is available for them out there. That's all. Thank you.
So for the land use there that we have right now, what I like to see, like Dennis just mentioned, regarding the environment around us, it would be nice also to include the different types of trees that we have and the names in our language. We have a lot of our knowledge keepers that know the environment, and they could. And you mentioned that you're going to hire four to study something or to do interviews
community
or something?
researchers that will do
Yes.
the interviews. Yeah.
That could be one area to look at the different types of trees and the leaves and where the berries used to grow. Blueberries no longer grow in areas where we used to go to long time ago. Now we have to go further and harvesting the medicines as well. We noticed that we have to go further now to Molson Lake area, whereas in this area, close by our lake shores here, there's hardly any weegas growing there now. So there's a lot of things that we could include in here with the different types of trees and different types of areas that we can look at. Councillor Swanson just mentioned the names that were given long time ago with our Cree names, and now we use them, and as well as with burial grounds. There's quite a few of them at Molson Lake area as well, and we have to get those so people will know where they are, so they don't go and put anything there like cabins or whatever, because a lot of cabins are going up, and I noticed in Molson Lake. So there's a lot of things that we can add stories and, with the elders. Thank you. Plants. Lots of plants and flowers that we can include.
And what Dave mentioned about naming our traditional territory. I'll give you one example there. We traveled the Ichimam is going up to the trap line, and there's one area there that they call where the child lays. It doesn't mean necessarily that a child was buried there, but there's a rock there that lies that looks like a little child, so they named it where the child lies. So those are an example that the names will be bought for or named. Thank you.
Anybody else?
No, just to make little booklets for the schools, for the community, the Creewers to be there, but also, like Darlene said, the environment, the resources, the stuff that are out there, naming the berries, what they're called, and where they are in the community, not to share your secret stash there, Darlene. But in general, Thank you. Your spot.
Anybody else? Charlie? So I think right now what I can share is we are in the initial stages of establishing a land guardians program as well. So that'll be this current year. Once we're done with these meetings, and then we have a meeting schedule for land code and land use plan. We'll put a little bit more work into the land guardians. So I think we can, a lot of these, there'll be some overlap, and I see it working well together, like all the initiatives. But that's our third one.
You just mentioned of it with land protectors, we call them. So when the vote goes yes, you mentioned that federal is not going to say anything or do anything. So we're not going to no longer need, what do you call those, resource officers? Yes. They'll still be needed, but to focus on local, that know the environment.
So the conservation officers, that's a responsibility of the province. So like the land use plan, it doesn't take any responsibility away from the province. They still have to work with us, take our permit applications and all that, issue fishing licenses for commercial fishers and trappers. So with the land code, it's those federal responsibilities, those 44 sections that we will take over. So I'm going to outline some of the differences after the question period.
What if there's a forest fire within that resource area after the vote goes through? Yes, vote goes through.
So with the land code, it's federal. It's just the reserve lands. If there is a fire, it's still a provincial responsibility. Like that's just the way it works. So there is we're not taking over any responsibilities from the province. Yeah. Any more questions?
My only question was, like, I wasn't sure about I always hear this knowledge holders. Like, who would be a knowledge holder? Example, give me an example.
Every one of us as a Cree is a knowledge holder. You know, we all have unique knowledge and experiences. We're all knowledge holders. Yeah. So when we do start having meetings, and I'm already like fast forwarding in my mind, it'll be so we'll develop a list of, you know, these are the things that we're going to document. And so I can see very much like us spread out here on these tables, and we'll talk on one table about sturgeon. And then over here we're talking about medicines. Like that's kind of what I'm picturing right now. Anybody else have any? Yeah.
Why I'm asking is, like, you know, I was never really taught the traditional kind of life. Yeah, I went fishing camps with my parents, like to help out, but any other thing other than picking, no, well, that would one thing I miss. I mean the roots, the medicines. I don't know nothing about that. So that's why I asked. I thought the knowledge keepers were the ones that do the traditional, well, they could be, but, well, they are. So that's why, but where do I fit in all this? That's why.
Yeah, we all have knowledge. I just want to, Sophia Halcrow just walked in here. She's, I'd like to ask her to stand up. She's on our resource board as well. I guess she's the infant of our board. A really active fisherwoman and hunter. They, yeah, jogger. So just good to see you here, Sophia. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions or? Okay.
No, when we're saying, or the word is being passed on as knowledge keeper, it's the fishermen who go out in the land, the trappers and all that. They have a lot of knowledge, because they've been on the land. They work with the animals, the fish and everything else. So whenever I say knowledge keepers, I look towards my people that go out on the land, but also the elders. They have a lot of remembering where everything was, who worked here, who fished here, who trapped here. Because a lot of that is knowledge, just plain knowledge to know your community and your resource area.
Anybody else? Okay. So I guess I'm going to put this back up there. Thank you, Christina, for that. Certainly a lot of information, a lot to think about. But as we go through the process, we'll refine it. And like I said, this is just the first initial meeting, and subsequent meetings will be more focused on, say, a particular set of concerns or topics. I guess I'll say so. So I guess in terms of our next steps, so we'll probably meet again, like our group. We do have a team at Norway House that's working with intergroup. That's Councillor Swanson, Frida Albert, Wayne Anderson, myself, and we've got Kendra Stewart, who I keep in regular contact with as the rep for the province, and we will be doing a schedule of meetings. Hopefully we can have like a full schedule, like, so tentatively it's, the next meetings in, say, July or August, like that, and where it's going to be at, and this is what's going to be on the agenda, and to keep in line with those 3 phases that we had described at the beginning. We do have the PowerPoint. We'll have it available at our office for anybody who wants a copy. I think I got it electronically too, so if you want it by email, I can send it. So I think after this, what we will do is have a schedule of meetings for both land code and land use plan, and we just wanted to do these meetings like land code and then the land use plan, and I guess the differences are, so land code, it pertains to our reserve lands only, and then land use plan, it's the whole RMA, the whole resource area, but it also includes the reserve lands. But the land code is more focused towards laws, policies, zoning as well, like we'd have like residential areas and that. So those are the next steps as I see it. Resource Management Board will meet again in July. We haven't had that kickoff meeting yet with intergroup, like the whole board. It's just because everyone's doing something else. Like Siraj he's a regional fisheries manager, so he's out doing his fishing thing, and so we're kind of like all over. I believe that the next meeting will be within the next month. So we will let everyone know. Again, it'll be like posters, and we'll announce it on the radio and put it up on Facebook. Yeah, that's how I see it. So we'll have a more full agenda. So when the next meeting you come to, like, so we're going to roll up our sleeves and like start sharing some of that information for that intergroup has collected from the province, and then start collecting some of that information that we have, like our local knowledge. So let's say we have four agenda items, like it's berry picking season, so that's a good one to start. Fishing, I don't know, moose, whatever it is that we feel is a priority. So that's how that would work. Is there any other comments or questions? Because I'm gonna ask Councillor Swanson to come up and do some closing comments. Yeah, Safari, you want to take the mic? Yeah, the resource board, yeah.
Okay, I think if it's possible, we should have a meeting before then, because I feel like there is a lot of things that need to come forward with community and the land resource. I feel like as a young person, I don't really see any young people here, and Nori House is so large. I mean, besides these young people here. But for me, like, I just did a presentation on water, and I feel like there's that's part of our resource is water, right? And I think there's a gap between education where, for me, when I first started learning about our resource, I didn't know much, but I think there's a gap between education of our young people that need to be included. And I think if we can include more people before the July meeting, I think we could bring more things to the meeting in July, if that's possible.
Yeah, one of the things after we're done this meeting, like I said, our team will meet, and so there's land code, land use plan, and then the land guardians that we're starting. So it's like we really have to do some real good planning session on how we can make these things work. And just so you're aware, like, we did submit a proposal for the Guardians program, and we've got funding. So we had a really ambitious Guardians program that we had proposed. We'd like to target and meet every goal that we had set, and one of them is to do some curriculum on land-based, and to include some camps where we're teaching like these things we talked about, like the plants, the fish, the trees, and stuff like that. So it's how creative we get with our planning. Yeah, but it's a good. I noticed that too. I've done some presentations in the school, and they're not learning the local geography, geology. They're more familiar with other areas. So I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay, that's everything. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Swanson.
That's it. Thank you for those people that had the questions. And thanks specifically to the directive or the direct questions about resource management, about involving the youth. That's a great plan. I know that one of the things that we talked about, not just taking the youth out to the land and teaching them about the trees, teaching them about the history, about the animals or stuff like that. But one of the things that Loretta and I talked about a lot is that we want to encourage our youth to pursue careers in sciences, in environment, in sustainability. You know, we want people to become experts. We want people to be trained, so that way we don't have to keep going out of our community to bring people in whenever we're trying to do something, so that our people and our youth could be the ones that we could turn to. You know, we've been the last few weeks, we've started talking about, there's a number of projects that we have going right now, and Loretta mentioned at least 3 of them. You know, land code, this land use plan, and land guardians. We're also working with the ground penetrating radar. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to encourage our youth, you know, the students maybe that are interested, that are in university or college, or that are finished their high school, that are interested in a career. Maybe this is an area that you could be looking at. This is an area that we can train you, we can help you with. You know, come and see us, and then we can have you placed into these areas to do some work, to work with the people that are currently there. So that way, you know, we can guide you to go towards that path of going to school, getting trained, and later on in life that we can have you doing that type of work for us. Because it's time that it becomes very important for us to start looking after our land and our resources. It's time for us to have our own experts. We do have them. You know, they're the traditional people who are traditional users of the land. They're the experts. But we also want trained people that you know, that can do these tests, that can do the monitoring, that can do the sciences, that can do the, you know, those are the type of people that we're looking for as well, and that could be our youth. So I think that's important for us to have that. So I do appreciate all the good questions that we have here. As we move forward, we're going to have targeted audiences. You know, we'll go to the youth. We'll go to the elders, we'll go to the fishers, we'll go to the hunters. You know, we'll make sure that we ask people. You know, I know one of the things that I think that's always important is that we ask the women as well, because a lot of times we forget about them. But I think it's important. You know, they're the mothers, they're the keepers, they're the protectors as well. So we need to make sure that we hear from them as well. So egusane kinanas kumitinaamitune, and thank you all for being here, and thank you to everybody out there. So I think I'll turn it over, and thanks for Loretta and Frida for all the work that you've done. Eguse.
Thank you, Counselor. Rena, could I ask you to come up and close our meeting with a prayer? You can go to that mic there.
Katiami anano, tanas kumak, kesemantu, emini kuak, kimini kuak, kamenos kisikau. Mina anisar chikevina, kapiche mini kuak. Mina kaneni tamakuak, kapich, chasmisinawa. Mina kitiskuni kannau. Meikots. Tänään asku makagine kuanutse. Minä makagi peiduutti akissa. Ei akissa. It's very an important issue. Etinan stuuttamaan istaasai. Okay, kuana. When I go to this kind of ayawa, I always learn. Stemana ko tage kuaniutnen mina. Ista. And I try and support as much as I can. Nista isagis. Minikawian isa. Namatay siya. Ichiwian. Anagaisi minikuisya ka na siya sak. Desyo ichikuak. So night, today, sir, we thank him. We give him all the glory and praise. Heavenly Father, our Creator, we thank you for this day that you have given us and all the blessings that you have bestowed upon each and every one of us in our community and in our families. We ask you, Lord, to continue to bless us and guide us with your Holy Spirit to lead us to walk in a good path, the right path. And we thank you and we give you all the glory and praise today, this evening. We thank you for all the workers, the staff that have put this together, and for us that have came. We give you all the glory and praise tonight in Jesus' name. And as we close, we'll use the benediction and creed. Onisio kamagain katipid get Jesus Christ. Minaw sa akin gisemanto. Minaw itchain kaganasita sak. Kikaw itchay ko no. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Okay, so we've got our